Ngozi's suspicions had been a slow-growing seed, watered by whispers and nurtured by the subtle changes she observed in Adaobi. The way her sister's eyes lingered on Chijioke, the hushed conversations cut short upon her approach, the nervous energy that seemed to radiate from Adaobi, it all painted a picture that Ngozi could not ignore. As the day progressed, the sisters crossed paths in the kitchen, the heart of their home. The aroma of cooking spice filled the air, but the usual warmth between them was replaced by a tense silence. Ngozi watched as Adaobi stirred the pot of egusi soup, her movements lacking their usual care. "Adaobi," Ngozi began, her voice steady but laced with concern. "You've been distant since the festival. Is there something troubling you?" Adaobi's spoon paused mid-stir, her back still turned to Ngozi. "It's nothing, sister," she replied, too quickly, too sharply. The lie was a bitter leaf on her tongue, but she could not bring herself to confess the truth. Ngozi's eyes narrowed, her intuition now a sharpened blade. She knew the signs of a heart in conflict, the weight of secrets held too tightly. She stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on Adaobi's shoulder. "We are sisters, bound by blood and love. Whatever burdens you carry, know that you do not carry them alone." The moment hung between them, heavy with unspoken words. Adaobi's resolve wavered, the facade of normalcy cracking under the weight of Ngozi's concern. But the fear of shattering the peace of their family held her tongue. In the heart of Umuofia, where the harmattan breeze whispers secrets through the rustling leaves, Adaobi, a young woman adorned in a vibrant Ankara dress, crossed a line unseen but well known. Her heart carried her into the arms of Chijioke, her sister's husband, during the New Yam Festival's fervor. The festival was thick with the scent of roasted yams and palm wine, a celebration of bounty and community. Drums echoed in the distance, their rhythm a heartbeat that pulsed through the village. Adaobi moved with the crowd, her laughter mingling with the music, yet her eyes sought only one. Chijioke, tall and commanding, his presence like the baobab tree, firm, resilient, and deeply rooted in the land. His gaze found hers, a silent conversation in a sea of noise. They knew the gravity of their connection, the weight of the tradition they were defying. Yet, in that moment, none of it mattered. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sun in hues of orange and purple, Adaobi and Chijioke found themselves away from the revelry in the quiet of the Iroko trees. The world around them faded, leaving only the truth of their feelings, raw and unspoken. But the unseen line they crossed was not just of taboo. It was the boundary between duty and desire, between the life they were expected to lead and the one they yearned for. In the shadows of the Iroko, they shared a forbidden embrace, a promise without words, a hope that the wind of change would someday allow their love to flourish in the light. As the night claimed the day, Adaobi returned to the festival, her secret safe in the embrace of the Iroko trees. The line she crossed retreated into the unseen once more, but its mark on her soul remained, a scar of a love that could either doom or redeem her. The festival was a tapestry of color and sound, with drum beats echoing the community's heartbeat. Adobe, her beauty accentuated by coral beads and a gele head wrap, danced, not knowing her steps led towards forbidden rhythms. Under the veil of festivity, the village square was alive with the spirit of the ancestors. Elders in their Ashoke attire shared stories of old. Children played in the dust, their laughter rising above the din, and the air was rich with aroma of suya and jollof rice being prepared over open fires. Adobe moved with grace, her feet barely touching the ground, her body swaying to the ancient rhythms of the talking drums. The dancers around her were a blur, their movements a language of joy and celebration. Yet, in the midst of the dance, her heart was elsewhere, lost in the silent melody of her forbidden love. As the moon climbed higher, casting its silver glow over the village, the dance became more fervent. Adobe's gele slipped slightly, revealing her furrowed brow. She was a vision of beauty and conflict. Her soul torn between the world she knew and the one she dreamed of. Chijioke watched from the shadows, his eyes never leaving Adobe. The festival's veil concealed dark secrets, but it also masks the turmoil within. He knew the path they were on was fraught with peril, but the pull of their shared destiny was too strong to resist. The night wore on, and the festival reached its zenith. The final dance was a crescendo of hope and defiance, a dance for the gods and for the hearts of those brave enough to challenge fate. Adobe's dance ended in a wave of color and emotion, leaving the villagers in awe and the night air charged with the promise of change. As the festival drew to a close, the veil lifted, and the reality of the day ahead loomed large. Adobe and Chijioke shared a lingering look, a silent vow that no matter what the dawn brought, their hearts would remain entwined, bound by a love as enduring as the ancient rhythms that echoed through the land. Chijioke, a man like the Iroko tree, strong and respected, caught Adobe's eyes. His agbada, as regal as his stance, fluttered as he moved through the crowd. Their eyes met, a silent conversation in a sea of words. The festival continued to bloom around them, a garden of human joy and ancestral pride. Chijioke, clad in his richly embroidered agbada, moved with a grace that belied his stature. The fabric whispered tales of lineage and valor with every fold, speaking of the earth and sky, of rain and sun, woven by the hands of those who came before. Adobe's gaze followed him, drawn to the man who stood like a pillar among the people. His strength, not just in muscle, but in character. Their eyes locked, and in that brief exchange, volumes were spoken. It was a glance that carried the weight of their unspoken desires, a glance that held the promise of 1,000 tomorrows. The air was filled with the scent of fried plantain and the sound of the shekere accompanying the drums. Children darted between the legs of adults, their laughter piercing through the hums of conversations. The elders sat in circles, their faces creased with wisdom as they observed the younger generation, their eyes reflecting the fires that danced in the night. In the midst of it all, Adaobi and Chijioke's stolen glance was a secret script written in the language of the heart. It is a momentary escape from the roles they played, a step away from the expectations that bound them. In that glance, they were not just Adaobi and Chijioke. They were two souls reaching out across the divide, touching without hands, speaking without words. As the night deepened, the stars bore witness to their silent dialogue. The festival's veils may have hidden their forbidden love from the eyes of the world, but nothing could shroud the truth that lived in their hearts. With each stolen glance, they wove a tapestry of dreams, a vision of a world where their love could roam free, unchained by tradition or duty. And when the dawn came, with its light splitting over the village, it will find them changed. For in that sanctuary of their shared glances, they had found a courage they never knew they had. A courage to dream of a different life, a life where love was the only line that mattered. As the Harmattan winds carried tales of old, it now carried a new story, Adaobi and Chijioke, under the moonlight sky, found solace in each other's arms, a momentary escape from the expectations that bound them. The night was a cloak of serenity draped over the village, the moon a silent witness to the unfolding drama below. The Harmattan wind, once a bearer of dust and memories, now whispered of change and forbidden love. It rustled through the leaves of the baobab tree, carrying the scents of the earth and the secrets of two hearts entwined.
Adaobi, her skin aglow in the moonlight, found refuge in the warmth of Chijioke's embrace. His arms were for her fortress, his heartbeat a rhythm that suited her restless spirit. They stood together, two silhouettes against the backdrop of the vast African sky, their shadows merging into one. The wind spoke to them, its voice a blend of the past and the present, telling stories of the warriors and lovers, of battles won and lost. It spoke of the invisible lines drawn by tradition.
Lines that they had dared to cross. In its song, they heard the faint stirring of hope, a hope that their love could transcend the barriers set by time and society. In the quiet of the night, they shared their dreams, painting pictures of a future where their love was not a thing to be hidden, but celebrated. They spoke of a world where the whispering wind will carry their story across the lands, a testament to the power of love over convention. But as dawn approached, the reality of their situation crept in like the first light of day. The wind's whisper turned to sighs, a lament for the coming separation. With heavy hearts, they parted, each step away from each other, a reminder of the world that awaited them, a world that demanded they wear masks to hide their true selves. Yet, as they returned to their separate lives, the whispering wind continued its journey, carrying with it the promise that their love, though hidden, was as real as the earth beneath their feet and as enduring as the wind itself. It is a love that could not be silenced, a story that would be told in hushed tones until the day it could be shouted from the mountain tops. The sun rose, casting golden hues over the land, but for Adaobi, Its light brought the weight of guilt. She wrapped herself in her wrapper, the fabric heavy with the burden of her choice. As the village stirred to life, the roosters heralding the new day, Adobe sat alone in the quiet of her hut. The joyous echoes of the festival seemed like a distant dream, now replaced by the stark reality of mourning. The wrapper she clutched was vibrant, a stark contrast to the somber mood that enveloped her. The guilt lay upon her like a morning dew on leaves, cold and unshakable. She had danced with abandon, laughed with joy, and allowed herself to be swept away by a love that society forbade. But as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the thatched roof, they illuminated the consequences of her actions. Her sister, Nkechi, the rightful wife of Chijioke, was a paragon of virtue and grace. Adobe's heart ached for the betrayal, yet it yearned for the stolen moment with Chijioke. The internal battle raged within her, a war between duty and the desires of her heart. Outside, the sounds of the village coming to life were a reminder of the world that awaited her, a world of expectations, roles, and unwritten rules. She knew she would have to face Nkechi, to look into the eyes of the sister she loved and had wronged. Adobe rose, her movement slow, weighed down by the burden she now bore. She stepped outside, the morning air fresh on her skin, and made her way to the stream. The water, a mirror to the sky, reflected her troubled visage. She scooped the cool liquid into the hands, the ripples distorting her reflection, a symbol of the turmoil within. As she returned from the stream, the path ahead was unclear. The love she felt for Chijioke was a flame that refused to be extinguished. Yet the regret of her actions was a shadow that threatened to engulf her. The morning's regret was a heavy cloak, but it was hers to wear and hers alone to shed. In the days to come, Adobe will have to navigate the complexities of her emotions and the realities of her choices. The sun's rise promised a new beginning, but for Adobe, it also meant facing the truth of her heart and the consequences of a love that defied the norms of her world. Ngozi, Adobe's sister, wore her suspicion like the intricate patterns of her lace blouse. She watched Adobe, her intuition sharp as the edge of a calabash. The morning sun streams through the open window, casting a lattice of light and shadow across Ngozi's face as she sat in contemplation. Her lace blouse, a masterpiece of craftsmanship, was adorned with patterns that told stories of wisdom and discernment. It was as if the fabric itself was imbued with the ability to see beyond the surface, much like Ngozi's piercing gaze. Adobe, unaware of her sister's watchful eyes, moved about the compound with a restlessness that betrayed her inner turmoil. The previous night's event hung over her like a cloud, darkening her usual vibrant smile. She performed her chores mechanically, her thoughts a million miles away. Ngozi's suspicions had been a slow-growing seed, watered by whispers and nurtured by the subtle changes she observed in Adobe. The way her sister's eyes lingered on Chijioke, the hushed conversations cut short upon her approach, the nervous energy that seemed to radiate from Adobe It all painted a picture that Ngozi could not ignore. As the day progressed, the sisters crossed paths in the kitchen, the hearts of their home. The aroma of cooking spice filled the air, but the usual warmth between them was replaced by a tense silence. Ngozi watched as Adobe stirred the pot of egusi soup, her movements lacking their usual care. Adobe, Ngozi began, her voice steady but laced with concern. You've been distant since the festival. Is there something troubling you? Adobe's spoon paused mid-stir, her back still turned to Ngozi. It's nothing, sister, she replied, too quickly, too sharply. The lie was a bitter leaf on her tongue, but she could not bring herself to confess the truth. Ngozi's eyes narrowed, her intuition now a sharpened blade. She knew the signs of a heart in conflict, the weight of secrets held too tightly. She stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on Adobe's shoulder. We are sisters, bound by blood and love. Whatever burdens you carry, know that you do not carry them alone. The moment hung between them, heavy with unspoken words. Adobe's resolve wavered, the facade of normalcy cracking under the weight of Ngozi's concern. But the fear of shattering the peace of their family held her tongue. As the evening approached, Ngozi sat beneath the udala tree, its branches a canopy of contemplation. She knew the path ahead would be fraught with difficult choices. Her love for Adobe was unwavering, but so was her commitment to the truth. The intricate patterns on her blouse seemed to shift and dance in the fading light, a reflection of the complexities of the human heart. In the days to come, have to decide whether to confront the suspicions that gnawed at her or to let them lie dormant, hoping that time will reveal it. For now, she watched and waited, her sister's guardian in a world where the line between right and wrong was as delicate as lace. The truth, like the udu drum sound, resonated through the compound. Adobe, with a voice as fragile as a spider silk, confessed her betrayal to Ngozi. In the stillness of the early morning, as the sun's last rays kissed the earth goodbye, the air hung heavy with anticipation, as if the very ground beneath their feet awaited Adobe's next words. Ngozi, her heart a mix of dread and sorrow, sat across from her sister, her eyes a well of emotions. The intricate lace of her blouse seemed to tighten around her, a physical manifestation of the tension that gripped her soul. Adobe's lips parted, and the words that had held captive in the depths of her being finally found their freedom. Ngozi, my sister, my heart, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I have walked a path shadowed by deceit. I have allowed my heart to lead me into the arms of one who is not mine to hold. The confession hung in the air, its echoes bouncing off the walls of the compound, reverberating in the hearts of the two women. Ngozi's face was a canvas of shock and pain, the betrayal slicing through her like the sharp edge of a knife. I have loved Chijioke, Adobe continued, her voice gaining strength even as tears threatened to spill from her eyes. It is a love that defies our customs, a love that has no place in the light of day. but it's a love that consumes me nonetheless. Ngozi sat motionless, her suspicions now confirmed, the intricate patterns of her blouse blurring before her eyes as they filled with tears. The Idu drum, a symbol of communication and unity, now seemed to mock her with its silence. How long? Ngozi finally asked, her voice a mix of anger and heartache. Since the festival, Adobe replied, the weight of her confession making her feel as though she were being crushed under the weight of the world. The sisters sat in the growing darkness, the truth between them a chasm that seemed too vast to bridge. The Udu drum, silent throughout the confession, now seemed to resonate with the gravity of Adobe's words. As night fell, the compound was enveloped in a darkness that felt heavier than usual. The confession's echo lingered, a reminder of the fragility of trust and the complexity of the human heart. For Adobe and Ngozi, the path forward was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The truth, once spoken, could never be taken back, and its reverberations will be felt for a long time to come. The revelation spilled the family like a crack in a clay pot. Ngozi's tears fell like the first raindrops of the season. Her trust in both Adobe and Chijioke shattered. The compound, once a heaven of unity and love, now echoed with the silence of betrayal. The walls, adorned with colorful tapestries, seemed to dim in the wake of the day that had been laid bare. Ngozi, her heart a landscape marred by the fissures of deception, wept not just for the betrayer but for the innocents lost. Adobe watched her sister, her own eyes brimming with tears, her soul aching with regrets. The fabric of her wrapper clung on her skin, a reminder of the choice that had led her here. She reached out, her hand trembling, longing to bridge the gap that her actions had brought. Chijioke, the man who stood like an Iroko tree amidst the storm of accusations, wore his guilt like a mantle. His agbada, once a symbol of his stature, now felt like chains binding him to the consequences of his heart's folly. He looked upon the faces of the women he loved, his voice lost in the desert of his remorse. The elders, wise in the ways of the world, shook their heads in dismay. The crack in the family was a reflection of the cracks in the community, a sign that the fabric of tradition and honor had been torn. They gathered, their bubus and their geles a sign of solemnity, to deliberate the path forward. The children, innocent bystanders to the unfolding drama, clung to their mothers, their eyes wild with confusion. They sensed the shift in the air, the change in the rhythm of their daily lives. The laughter that once filled the compound was now a distant memory, replaced by the heavy cloak of tension. As the day passed, the divide only deepened. Conversations were hushed, meals were eaten in silence, and the vibrant life that once coursed through the family's veins was now subdued. The crack in the clay pot, once thought to be a small future, threatened to become a chasm that could not be mended. Ngozi, her suspicions confirmed, struggled with the duality of her emotions. Her love for Adobe was unwavering, yet the sting of betrayal was a bitter leaf that refused to be swallowed. She grappled with the desire for forgiveness and the need for justice, her heart a battleground of conflicting royalties. In the end, the family's divide was more than just the result of a forbidden love. It was a testament to the fragility of trust, the complexity of human emotions, and the enduring strength of family bonds. The path to healing will be long and arduous, but even the deepest cracks can be filled, and the strongest clay pots can be mended. The question remained: would the family choose to pick up the pieces and rebuild, or would the divide become a permanent scar on the landscape of their lives?
The elders, adorned in their flowing bubu, gathered like the ancient baobab circle. They deliberated over the matter. Their wisdom sought to mend what had been broken. In the heart of the village, under the shade of the great baobab, the council of elders convened. Their bubus, rich in color and history, fluttered gently in the breeze, a silent testament to the gravity of their assembly. They sat in a circle, each face etched with the lines of countless suns and moons, each pair of eyes a well of experience and understanding. The air was thick with the scent of the earth. The sound of the udu drum's distant echo still lingering as a reminder of the harmony that once was. The elders spoke in tongues, their voices a blend of concern and resolve. They spoke of the traditions that bound the community, of the ancestors who watched over them, and of the delicate balance between justice and compassion. The fabric of our family has been torn, said the eldest, his voice resonating with the authority of his years. It's our duty to weave it back together, to restore the peace that had been disturbed. Another elder, her eyes sharp as the edge of the calabash, added, but we must also remember that the heart has its own wisdom. We cannot mend what has been broken with a heavy hand. Our actions must be guided by understanding and the desire to heal, not just to punish. The council nodded in agreement. Their collective wisdom, a tapestry of shared values and diverse perspectives. They spoke of Adobe and Chijoke, not as a mere names in the tale of scandal, but as members of their community, as individuals whose lives and loves were intertwined with the very soul of the village. As the discussion unfolded, the elders considered the path before them. Some spoke of the need for retribution, for the upholding of customs that had governed their people for generations. Others argued for leniency, for the acknowledgement of the changing times and the power of love to transcend the laws of man. In the end, the council reached a decision, one that was neither harsh nor lenient, but rather a reflection of the complexity of life itself. They decreed that Adobe and Chijoke would be given a chance to speak, to share their story in the community, and to seek forgiveness not just from the family they had wronged, but from the heart of the village itself. The council's verdict was an echo of ancient wisdom that had guided their ancestors, a wisdom that recognized the imperfection of the human heart and the capacity for growth and redemption. As the elders rose from their seats, their bubus casting long shadows on the ground, they knew that the path to healing would be long and fraught with challenges, but they also knew that it was a path worth taking for the sake of the family, the community, and the future generations who will look back upon this moment as a turning point in the story of their people. The Baobab Circle, once a place of deliberation,
now stood as a symbol of hope, a hope that the family's divide could be bridged, that the clay pot could be mended, and the harmony of the village could be restored. The elders' council had spoken, and their words, like the whispering wind, carried the promise of a new beginning. Adaobi faced the consequences of her actions, her punishment woven into the fabric of her daily life, a reminder of the line she had crossed. The sun rose over the village, its light a stark contrast to the shadow that now hung over Adaobi's world. The vibrant colors of her Ankara dress seemed dulled, each pattern a narrative of the passion that had led her astray. Her days were filled with whispers and sideways glances, the community's eyes a constant reminder of her transgressions. Her punishment was not one of physical restraint, but rather the intangible chains of judgment and shame. She moved through her chores with a solemnity that was once foreign to her spirited nature. The laughter and the warmth that had once surrounded her were replaced with a cool distance. The villagers' interactions with her tinged with disapproval. Chijioke, the man who had shared in her forbidden love, bore his own burden. His once proud stride was now heavy, his interactions strained by the knowledge of the heartache they had caused. The agbada he wore, a symbol of his status, now felt like a garment of remorse, each thread a reminder of the price of their passion. Ngozi, the sister whose trust had been broken, struggled to reconcile her love for Adaobi with the betrayal. Their relationship, once a bond of sisterly affection, was now a fragile bridge over a chasm of hurt and disappointment. Ngozi's suspicions had been confirmed, but the truth brought no comfort, only a deep sense of loss. The elders, who had sought to mend the rift with wisdom and understanding, watched Adaobi with a mix of pity and hope. They had seen many seasons and knew that the human heart was capable of both great error and great redemption. Their decision to allow Adaobi and Chijioke to remain part of the community was a testament to their belief in second chances. As the days turned into weeks, Adaobi's punishment became a path to reflection. She tended to the gardens, the soil beneath her fingers, a connection to the earth and to the circles of life that continued unabated. In the quiet moments, she found solace in the beauty of the natural world, a reminder that even the deepest wounds could heal. The price of her passion was steep, but it was not without its lessons. Adaobi learned the strength that comes from facing one's mistakes, the humility of seeking forgiveness, and the courage to rebuild one's life from the ashes of regret. Her journey was one of pain and growth, a dance of shadows and light that will continue to shape her in the days to come. In the end, the price of passion was not just a punishment, but also a gift of self-discovery, of understanding the depth of one's souls, and of learning that the most profound passions are those that honor the heart without breaking the bonds of love and trust that bind us all. In the village where the red earth meets the sky, Adaobi embarked on a journey for forgiveness, her steps testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The dawn greeted her with a gentle breeze, carrying the scents of the frangipani flowers that lined the path. Adaobi's silhouette was a solitary figure against the awakening world, her wrapper wrapped tightly round her waist, each fold a memory of the days gone by. Her journey led her to the sacred grove, a place where the ancestors whispered through the leaves of the ancient Iroko trees.
She knelt upon the ground, the red earth beneath her palms, and poured out her heart in a silent plea for absolution. Ancestors of the land, she began, her voice steady and clear. I come before you, a daughter who has strayed from the path. I seek your wisdom, your guidance, and your forgiveness for the love that has caused such pain. The grove was silent, save for the rustlings of the leaves and the distant calls of a fish eagle. Adobe's words hung in the air, a fragile bridge between the earthly and the divine. She remained still, her heart open and vulnerable, waiting for a sign, a whisper of acceptance. As the sun climbed higher, its rays filtering through the canopy, a soft wind stirred the grove. The iroko trees danced, and in their movements, Adobe felt the presence of the ancestors. It was as if they were speaking to her, their voices a gentle caress upon her soul. You are here, child of the earth, the wind seemed to say. Your journey is one of many steps, each one a chance to learn, to grow, and to heal. The path to forgiveness is not walked alone, for we are with you, guiding you back to the light. Adobe rose, her heart lighter than it had been in moons. She understood that forgiveness was not a destination but a journey, one that required patience, courage, and willingness to face the shadows of the past. As she made her way back to the village, the red earth beneath her feet felt firmer, the sky above more vast. She knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she also knew that she carried with her the blessings of the ancestors and the strength of her own convictions. The journey for forgiveness was not just for herself, but for her family, for Chijioke, and for the community that had been shaken by the revelation of their love. It was a journey that would mend the cracks in the clay pot, that would heal the divide, and that would restore the harmony that once been the heartbeat of the village. And so, Adobe walked on, her spirit buoyed by the promise of redemption, her path illuminated by the wisdom of the ages. The journey for forgiveness was hers to make. She moved closer to the peace that comes with true reconciliation and the joy that blooms from the soil of understanding and grace. As the seasons turned, the village of Umuofia began to heal. Its rhythms restored to the dance of forgiveness and unity. Adobe, once shrouded in the veil of her transgressions, now moved with a newfound purpose. Her steps, once hesitant, were now confident, each one a beat in the song of her redemption. The vibrant Ankara fabrics that adorned her body swirled around her as she joined the dance circle, her movement a celebration of life's endless circle. The drums spoke a language of resilience, their rhythm a heartbeat that echoed through the village. The dancers responded, their feet pounding the earth, their hands reaching towards the sky. It was a dance of healing, a communal expression of the joy and pain that had woven the tapestry of their shared history. Ngozi, her heart mended by the threads of sisterly love, danced alongside Adobe. There was an understanding that words could never capture. The bond they shared was unbreakable, forged in their fires of trials and strengthened by the waters of forgiveness. Chijioke, his presence, once a source of division, now stood at the edge of the circle. The agbada he wore was no longer a symbol of his fall from grace, but a mantle of his commitment to change. He watched Adobe, his heart full of gratitude for the second chance that elders and the ancestors granted them. The children, their laughter a melody that intertwined with music, ran around the dancers. They were the future, the promise that the lessons of the past will not be forgotten. In their innocence, they embodied the hope that the village will continue to thrive. A community united by its values and its capacity to forgive. As the dance reached its crescendo, the elders looked on with pride. Their decisions to guide the village through compassion rather than punishment had borne fruit. The family's divide had been bridged, and the clay pot mended, and the harmony of Umuofia restored. The dance ended, but the music lingered, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, the human spirit could overcome. The village of Umuofia, with its red earth and ancient trees, stood as a testament to the enduring power of community and the healing dance of forgiveness. And so, life in Umuofia continued, each day a new step in the dance of existence, each night a rest in the arms of the ancestors. For Adobe, the journey for forgiveness had led her home, to a place where passion and duty found harmony, and where the dance of life was one of endless possibility.
If this story has touched your heart, please consider supporting us by following us or subscribing and sharing this video. Your support allows us to bring more stories of hope and healing to the world. Thank you.